season, but it's also countdown season, and we got some dudes to get to.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Prayers up for my Wi-Fi. I hope it works. And thank you for making this your first listen. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Jimmy, I want to talk, first of all, today about recruiting. Some interesting things have gone on, not necessarily right at Alabama, but around Alabama. Ole Miss, like 3 commitments in the last 24 hours. One of them a 5-star wide out of Utah. I don't think that has anything to do with Alabama, but then there's also a couple other guys that Ole Miss lost, but one of the guys that they think Ole Miss is about to lose is A.K. Deer. Now, that does have an effect on Alabama. If I'm going to Ole Miss, you really like Alabama's chances for the Quitman, right?
Yeah, if A.K. Deer is not at Ole Miss, then I fully expect him at Alabama. I think it's an Ole Miss or Alabama thing for A.K. Deer. We'll have to see. One thing about those Ole Miss decommitments that I want to remind everybody, and I do not know what happened at Ole Miss. There's no way for me to know that without calling Ole Miss sources, and I haven't done that. And it's not if it has no effect with Alabama, I'm probably not. But one thing for everybody to remember is, for some reason, as fans, and I do this too, I think we all do this, there is an assumption when we see the word decommitment, we assume the kid changed his mind. Something happened, and the kid called Ole Miss and said, I'm no longer committed to your school. I'm going to open my recruitment up, or I'm switching to this other school. We have to remember that many times, and it's not even rare, many times when there's a decommitment, the school has dropped the kid for whatever reason. I mean, who knows? It could be 100 reasons, but sometimes it's the school that decommits a kid. It's not always the kid, but for whatever reason, there's a fan assumption 100% of the time that it's the kid's decision. But that's just not the case. I don't know what percentage of time. I'm just going to pick one random out of the air, but I would say as much as 20% of the time, if not 25% of the time, it's the school that has dropped the kid. Heck, it's a brutal world. Sometimes it's just an upgrade. Hey, we didn't know we were going to get 2 4-stars at wide receiver. So, hey, you 2 3-star receivers, y'all gotta hit the pavement. That literally happens. It's a brutal, cruel world out there.
Yes, I'm muted, but you don't think that's what's going on with A.K. Deer here? You're just
no. That would never happen with A.K. Deer unless it would be something off the field. But no. A.K. Deer, if he decommits from Ole Miss, it would be simply because he's chosen to go to Alabama.
And to be frank, as of recording at 8:08 Central Time, God's time, we have heard that he is decommitted, but there are a lot of rumors out there he's about to. Then there's also Travis Smith, a receiver Alabama has been connected to. A lot of people love him, great player out in the Atlanta area. He is now in Tennessee. Okay. Look, Alabama gets Cam and Lockett. I think that, hey, that's fine.
Yeah, Travis. Yeah, Travis Smith is Alabama's highly interested in Travis Smith, but I also think it's fair to say Alabama's in good shape for some other guys.
Okay. Well, as Jimmy apparently contracted COVID right after that sentence, because luckily for us, turned the mute button. And if on video, just coughed up kidneys. And he's still coughing them up. So we're going to leave that right where it is. There was also some talk about a couple. Go ahead. There was also some tight end talk here recently. Andrew Olish and Nick Townsend, right. A couple of tight ends. It feels like Alabama's going to miss on both of those guys, though.
Well, the latest information, I think Andrew Olish looks like Michigan, and I'm not sure he was really high up. I don't know that was ever going to be an Alabama thing, though he did officially visit. Nick Townsend, per Tim Watts, BOL. Tim says, I think I'm trying to recall his exact wording, but I think Nick Townsend may be leaning Texas per Tim. Yeah. And Tim's, by the way, pretty clued into what's going on in Texas, by the way. Whenever there's a Texas thing going on, Tim's got good sources.
What about Ivan Taylor and Justin Hill? These are two guys that I'm really interested in. I would love to swipe Ivan Taylor as a safety from Notre Dame. I just like stealing Notre Dame dudes that are good. Not if they're not good, I don't want them. But then there's Justin Hill. He went to Oregon this past weekend. I think most people still believe it's going to be Alabama or Ohio State. And he's got a third commitment coming up.
Yeah, I think two of these guys, those two are super interesting to me, Justin Hill and Ivan Taylor both, because they're big-time guys. These are big-time dudes. Alabama's going to have to beat big programs to get both. Justin Hill, an Ohio guy, likes Ohio State a lot. Like Luke said, just went on the trip to Oregon. Ivan Taylor committed to Notre Dame, but is strongly considering flipping to either Alabama or Michigan. So these are some highly rated guys that would be fantastic for Alabama to land. And Alabama is in good shape for both. It is not unrealistic that Alabama could land Justin Hill, whose mom loves Alabama. And, sometimes it begins and ends with mom. Justin Hill's mom probably already would have committed to Alabama should we field a team of moms. Justin Hill's mom would be on it. Ivan Taylor seems to like Alabama quite a bit. I don't know if it's enough to flip. Ivan Taylor is not one of these kids that's definitely not going to the school he committed to. He is still committed to Notre Dame and still very much may end up at Notre Dame. He's just wavering, is probably the best way to put it. I would not bet large sums of money on Justin Hill or Ivan Taylor ending up at Alabama, but it is very, very possible in both instances.
It reminds me of what you just said, that when I was at Alabama, I saw a movie called A Team of – it was blurred out, but I got the gist. Let me go ahead and take a break. All right, going to tell everybody about LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role in your organization. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking in LinkedIn, where are you looking? Under a rock? You ain't going to find them there. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 20 hours. Hire professionals like on LinkedIn. Post free at LinkedIn. Locked On College. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. All right, Jimmy, so let's get back into your countdown now. I mean, there's no actual super solid recruiting info. That's what we love to talk about, but I really love to talk about the countdown too. And now we're to a dude who's going to be a dude. He's not a dude yet, but we all feel dudedom coming on top of him. That's got to be a better way to say that.
There's got to be a better way to say that, but I'm keeping dudedom. I'm keeping that.
Red Morgan.
Yep.
Guy from Central Phoenix City that he's been playing, state champion, been playing in the classification of Alabama. I mean, which is just a knockdown from college. I mean, it's Central Phoenix City. That's about the best right now, Thompson. He knows, plays for Knicks, so he knows about how to get ready for college and all this. Well, he's come in during the spring. He looked great. People are just waxing poetic about what he's doing in the defensive backfield. Of course, you want to take it with a grade of saw, as they say on Bama Online. But you at the same time, you've got to be very encouraged that here's a guy. It's funny. I went on Locked on Auburn yesterday at the request of Zach Blackerby to talk a little Jacquez Robinson, Alabama, and then he went to Colorado, now he's transferred. And on surface, it doesn't seem like a big deal. But, something about that kid, Nick Saban likes something about that kid. And you and I talked a little bit about him yesterday, that if he had stuck around, look, we don't say he'd have been a star, but we think he would have played. I think Nick Saban really likes something about Red Morgan too. And I think Red Morgan's going to have a better career than Jacquez Robinson. Let me make that clear. What I'm saying is we shouldn't be so shocked, fits it back, that Nick Saban targeted, that he really likes. That wasn't like, okay, we missed guys, let's take Red Morgan. That wasn't the case. He be pretty doggone.
Yeah, I am super excited about Red Morgan. He may have been the number one story of the spring to me, or maybe that might not be the best way to put it. Maybe he was the number one surprise of the spring. What happened was, we have a new position at Alabama. We used to call it star. We now call it husky, but it's virtually the same position. It's the nickelback or the slot corner. But we seem to, under the new staff, under Kane Womack's defense, we seem to want to staff the husky spot with a safety. We saw two safeties this spring playing the husky position, and Red Morgan began the spring as the number one husky. And I think, and I'm talking about practice number one, practice number two, Red Morgan was out there as the guy. So as Luke pointed out, I think it had a lot to do with Central Phoenix City and what a great program that is, and how they are really preparing kids for college football, because Red Morgan just showed up ready to play. If you remember, we signed a kid out of there not too long ago, Javion Cohen, the offensive lineman, who ended up having maybe not the career he wanted, but he got off to a good start. He was good quickly. And I think we have to credit that great high school program with getting them ready to play at the SEC level. But Red began the spring as a starter. He eventually bowed out and gave that spot to the older kid, Devontae Smith, who was a little banged up to start the spring. But once Devontae was healthy, he kind of took over the position. And my guess is Devontae Smith will be the starting Husky for Alabama this fall, and he's going to be good. He's going to be a good player. I think so. But Red Morgan's close, and I think Red Morgan is so close to Devontae Smith that we're going to see him play. That's why I've got him ranked up here at I think 41. I think that's the top half of the roster. I think even though he is a true freshman, we will see Red Morgan. I also think Red will be a fantastic special teams player quickly. He'll be a big part of that this fall. We'll see him in end of game situations. And again, I think he's pushing Smitty all year long at that Husky spot. So Red Morgan is definitely a name to know. As Luke, he wasn't one of our most highly recruited guys. He wasn't the guy you would have looked at and said, hey, here's a guy who's going to be noisy in his first spring on campus. You wouldn't have guessed that Red would be that guy, but he was. And it reminds me a little bit, Luke, of Malachi Moore, who did not show up a highly recruited player compared to the rest of his class, yet started game one. Year one, game one, Malachi was on the field. I don't think Red will be on the field, but I think Red Morgan is a similar player to Malachi Moore, and that's who my Bama comp for him is. I think he could have a Malachi-type career at Alabama. I just find them very similar.
Yeah. One thing, too, you mentioned special teams. I said this yesterday. I want to tell me if you think I'm nuts. When I talked to Zach on Locked on Auburn, it should be out this afternoon if you want to check it out. But he was mentioning Jacquez Robinson, because that's the whole reason he had me on, really, was just talk about him and what do I think he can do. And, and I said, special teams guy, right? And I said, is like, I think I would like a special teams guy who's fourth, fifth, or sixth year, with COVID, you never know. Fourth, fifth, or sixth year guy who's had some experience, who at this point in his career knows I'm not going to go into the league probably, but I can make a name for myself right here by doing this. And if I just do as my coaches tell me, versus sometimes a special coming in as a freshman who feels like I got to make a name for myself. So they're looking for this spectacular play, and they may bust an assignment. So I'll say all that. I still excited being on special.
I don't think we pay enough attention. I don't think we pay enough attention to special teams, especially in the offseason, where we spend all our time talking about offense, spend all our time talking about defense. But frankly, special teams decides close games all the time. When it's close game against a like opponent, when Alabama's playing Georgia, when Alabama's playing LSU, when Alabama's at Oklahoma, it could so easily come down to a play on special teams, whether you're talking about your punt coverage or kick coverage, knocking a ball out. Happened last year a couple times because I just talked about it yesterday on BOL and a play that Justin Jefferson made. I think we talked about it here on the show. We talked about it here on the show about Justin Jefferson, knocking a ball loose on special teams, and making kicks. Will Reichard, how valuable was he? And having a punter like James Burnip, who can change field position. Special teams is vital. It's funny, we spend the entire offseason, though, talking about offense and defense, rarely bring up special teams, but it's a huge part of what you do on Saturdays. And due to Alabama's depth of talent on the roster, Alabama usually fields pretty good special teams units because they got 85 good football players, not just 20.
So true. Now, I want to throw one out there that's not read, Morgan. I wanted to talk about this in the recruiting segment. I actually had it written down, and I just glossed over it. That's Josiah Sharma is going to be committing at 2:00 on Friday. 2:00 again, God's time, Central Time. What do you feel here? It looks like it's going to be Alabama, Texas. I mean, reading the articles, reading the tea leaves, I give slight lean to Alabama. But if you go, now really should be slight lean Texas, I'd go, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, this one's going to go either way. There's two commitments that are coming down Friday. Dijon Lee, the 5-star cornerback from Mission Viejo, California, and then Josiah Sharma, also from California, national top 100 defensive lineman. But boy, defensive lineman, even when you say national top 100 defensive lineman, you're talking about a highly recruited kid. Everybody in the country wants the highly rated defensive lineman, probably the second most recruited position, after quarterback in terms of intensity of recruitments. Josiah, Alabama lean early on. Alabama offered him, Kalen DeBoer offered him right off the plane. It was a kid that they had gotten committed to Washington as a young player. He decommitted from Washington. All of his attention went to Alabama, but he is sort of blown up nationally. Now it looks like an Alabama-Texas thing. And, I said earlier in the show, Tim Watts has great sources at Texas, so we're kind of clued in over there. They don't know. They're not sure. It could go either way, and I think this is one of these cases myself. This happens all the time. I think the kid's going to commit Friday. He may not know yet. I mean, he may not have decided yet. That happens a lot more than people think. I think he's still deciding. Is it going to be Alabama or is it going to be Texas? Texas is tough to beat. They have a lot of NIL money. It's a great program under Sark, nationally competitive, the big Lamborghini program everybody talks about. But hey, Alabama, don't forget this too. Alabama ain't broke. Alabama ain't broke. When someone's coming to the table with a big bid, NIL wise, it's not like Alabama's a poverty program at all. He would do fine at Alabama, but Texas can be tough to beat here, but this could go either way. Dijon Lee, we've already predicted at BOL. The BOL prediction on Dijon Lee is Alabama. Josiah Sharma, I haven't made a prediction yet. Might not be one until Friday.
159. Let's. I want to tell everybody about FanDuel. We're going to come back and talk about Howard. Of course, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. Of course, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel. Summertime means baseball. It means the College World Series where Tennessee won. Kind of gross, but SEC. Okay, you can go either way. And you can bet on all that at FanDuel. You can bet on whatever's left right now at FanDuel. Right now, new customers get 200 bonus bets. $1 bet. $100 you can use to bet from the final D to who's going to hit one out of the ballpark. right? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your summer bucket list. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, as we all know. Tennessee did win the College World Series yesterday. They beat Texas A&M. We're going to talk about Kam Howard. Are you indifferent about it? Do you feel like, Tennessee that much? Are you sort of like, as SEC did, it's not hard, I'm fine? I mean, that's the way I am. And I don't hear that Tennessee won it. I mean, it's fine. I'm kind of glad the SEC did. So whatever. Is that how you feel? You're on mute. Are you on mute? Are you on mute?
How about that? I muted. I did.
That's fantastic.
I'll have to borrow the shirt. I finally
And my daughter called as I was telling you you're on mute.
So, I'm going to have to borrow the shirt. I finally did it. I was worried about the obviously I have excessive coughing as I'm dealing in this construction zone that I'm in the last couple days. But yeah, so you got me. I'll have to borrow the shirt. With Tennessee winning the World Series, the way I looked at it, Luke, is going into the College World Series, an SEC team was going to win it. I mean, if you're rooting against the SEC, and if you're like an Alabama fan, it's like I root against the whole league, then don't watch the College World Series because an SEC team is going to win it. And this time it was Tennessee's turn. They are a great team. Hey, look, you might have some negative opinions about Tony Vitello. I get that totally. I get that he turns a lot of people off, but you also have to give him credit for that is a team of dudes. They play hard. They do play hard. You've got to give them a lot of credit for they play the game hard. They're good. They've been good for a while. And let's bring back an Alabama thing here, Luke. How about this? 2 of the past 3 seasons, Alabama has won the regular season series against the College World Series champion because Alabama beat Tennessee 2 out of 3 games this year at home at the Joe. Alabama won 2 of 3. 2 years ago when they played national champion Ole Miss, they swept Ole Miss in Oxford the year that Ole Miss won the College World Series. Just goes to show you.
I don't mind you pointing it out. I don't mind it. I dig it, and it's true. It's now I'm putting that, like we've bragged. Now it's time for us to make a move. Yes. It's time for us to do that. So Tony Vitello was hired like in 2007, June 7th, and Brad Bohannon was hired on June 5th of that same year. So I guess technically we could have had Vitello. Now things might have been different because of lottery, because of everything else. I'm not getting into that. We're talking about Kam Howard now. Cam and Red Howard sounds like a so Kam transfer in at the biggest division. He's the biggest school, I should say. But you have him up here ahead of Red Howard, Red Morgan, who I think more people are probably excited about, but you got him a notch ahead.
I do. I do because Cam is a veteran player. And it's crazy in this new landscape of college football that a true sophomore is now a veteran player. But basically half of everyone's roster these days due to the transfer portal, half of the roster are true freshmen and redshirt freshmen. I know that's the case with Alabama, but Kam Howard is a veteran player that Alabama signed out of the portal to provide immediate depth and potentially start. Now, I don't think Kam Howard's going to start because I think the safety position at Alabama is well set with Keon Sabb and Malachi Moore at safety and Devontae Smith at the Husky spot. But I think Kam Howard is next up. I think he's the first safety off the bench. I think he could be the number 1 sub for Sabb, for Malachi Moore, for Devontae Smith even. I think Kam Howard will be the first guy off the bench. Let me tell you this. I know it's the Charlotte 49ers, and they're not in a big conference, and they're not a great program. But Kam Howard, as a true freshman, coming from a big-time program, by the way, he's from St. Francis Academy in Maryland, Baltimore. That's a top 10 program nationally. They beat IMG Academy, Kam Howard's senior year. How about that for a factoid? In Kam Howard's senior year, when he was on the team at St. Francis, they beat IMG. That's how good that group is. But Cam started 2 games as a true freshman. He had 2 interceptions during his freshman season. He played in every game, was out there special teams every week, played safety most weeks, ended up with, I think, 38 or 40 tackles. Again, the 2 interceptions. This is a veteran guy who started college football games. One of his picks, one more cool factoid, one of his interceptions off Talia Tagovailoa. So, I mean, Kam Howard is showing up a guy capable of playing in the games. I think he's going to be the number 1 safety off the bench. Again, very well schooled from St. Francis Academy. Me and Luke talk about that all the time. These kids that come from big 7A type programs, winning programs like Central Phoenix City that we talked about with Red Morgan. Here's Kam Howard from basically a Central Phoenix City of the northeastern United States, because St. Francis is that kind of program. So expect to see Kam Howard this fall, and he will be a serious contender for a starting position at safety in 2025.
Okay. So you're thinking a little bit ahead. I dig it. I hope you're right. I mean, I would love for Kam Howard to be a star. At the same time, I kind of hope we recruit past that. But you never know.
Yeah.
Some of these guys turn out to be fantastic. I'm not any shade. See what he's got. But at the same time, I feel like he started out at Charlotte for a reason. So that's sort of where I am with this. Again, I'm not throwing shade. I want him to go kick all kinds of butt. So let's see what he does. Well, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.